What's up? Got a really interesting deck for you today. This card, Pixie is a level 2 spellcaster, which is decent. It's got 1300 attack, which isn't too bad. And when it's destroyed by battle, you can place a normal spell or just any spell from your graveyard on top of your deck, but your opponent gets to choose. This seems like it would be like such a meme deck, and it kind of is, but it's surprisingly decent. There's a version of this deck that I'm going to show at some point that is super memey because it doesn't run any traps either, it just runs spells. But this deck does run traps, so it's a little bit more coherent. So yeah, this does limit your deck building quite a bit, but it is a really powerful effect. So the only spells we run in this deck are Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, and Snap Steal. These are basically cards that you always want to see every turn if you can, and therefore the only ones we play because we don't want our opponent picking Heavy Storm and then just keeping all the spawn traps in hand. So yep. Next we've got this little package. So because Pixie Knight is a level 2 spellcaster, we can spec it from Apprentice Magician when it's destroyed by battle. And that's why we run the Old Vindictive Magician, because Apprentice Magician can set this face down. This is just a man-eater bug, so not too bad if you draw it, and if you get it off this it could be really nice. Next we've got Shining Angel. So this is to go into our Pixie Knight. It can also obviously get copies of itself. Same goes for Apprentice Magician. This can also get copies of itself. And there is additional targets in this deck, which we'll get to soon. Next, so we've got 2 Rickety Break. This is our spell and trap removal. We can't run Heavy Storm at MST, as I say, so this is our replacement for those. And to justify running those, we run Triple Thunder Dragon, just a nice +1. No way to get additional value out of this with like card destruction or anything like that, which wouldn't be too bad in this deck because you do often go plus with card destruction with the cards that we're running in this deck, and you could always add Sinister Serpent to make sure that card destruction would be even better. But this is just a nice +1 that puts a light in the grave. And then we also run Night Assailant. We run a bunch of flips in this deck, and we would be in any case. And this just makes Regeki Break that bit better. And obviously if you've got one Night Assailant in grave and another one in hand, you can just keep looping them and never have to lose any kind of advantage from your discard cards. Also, because we're running Pixie Knight, sorry, you can abuse Graceful Charity quite a bit, so this card becomes really, really nice. Next, we've got Magical Merchant. This lets us excavate cards from the top of our deck until we get a spell or trap, and then adds it to hand. It's a flip effect. This is really good because we want to be getting through our monsters. We don't really care too much about which monsters we have as long as we have access to Pixie Knight, and as you've seen, we have so many cards that can give us access to Pixie Knight. We just want to see our power spells as soon as possible, and this helps us do so. Don't want to run 3 because Nobleman across it would hurt in that case. Same goes for this card, Dokuichi. This is if we want to draw like a Chaos Monster or something like that. It's a dark, which is nice, and it's got pretty beefy stats, so this deck does kind of lack in normal summonable beat sticks, so that 1400 can be pretty nifty if you're trying to go for game. You've got 2 Magician of Faith. Obviously all these monsters can be added back with Night Assailant. Magician of Faith, no real need to explain this. Unfortunately, you can only run the 3 power spells, so this can be dead, which is why you definitely don't want to run it 3, but you should obviously still run it. You've got Mystic Tomato. This is just to recruit Sangan, Spirit Reaper, and also the Apprentice Magician. so plenty of targets for Mystic Tomato. Your opponent kind of like noblemen all your floaters, your recruiters, so but you're bound to get one of them off and then start trying to make plays from that. Sangan obviously searches pretty much everything in this deck that I've showed so far. And the only things I can think of is like Thunder Dragon so far that I haven't shown that this doesn't search, so it just shows how powerful Sangan is in this deck. Spirit Reaper is really good because it can apply pressure as well as be a defensive stall card, which is really nice for this deck because sometimes you want to be making aggressive chaos plays, sometimes you want to be stalling until you get your Pixie Knight combo set up and then try and build advantage from it. You've got DD Warrior Lady, same goes kind of for same reason in the Spirit Reaper. On the offensive side, it's a big 1500 beat stick, or it's a 1600 wall that can banish whatever kills it. This is also recruitable by our Shining Angels, that's really nice. And it is a light, so that does come up more often than normal when you run DD Warrior Lady, because you run Magical Merchant. So if this mills this, it kind of classes as a light, whereas usually you wouldn't class this as a light in your deck because it's getting banished majority of the time. You've got Break of the Magical Warrior, super important because we can't run spell removal spells. So yeah, and it's a dark 1900 beer. Alright, good shit. You've got Tsukiyomi. This is really good because our recruiters can recruit our flip monsters, and then you can flip them with Tsukiyomi and then flip them up and get their effects that turn. So if your opponent's done attacking, you can really get some crazy plays going with like Shining Angel into Magician of Faith, or if you need to pop a monster, you can go Tomato into Old Vindictive and then do your thing. You've got Chaos Boys, so 2 Chaos Sorcerers. You could easily run 3 in this deck. I just tend to prefer 2 Chaos Sorcerer. It's been working out really nice. Tend to see it when I want to see it and not when I don't want to. You've got BLS, very obvious, and you've got Jar of Greed. These are good spell and trap removal bait. Heavy Storm, MST. You get a nice plus from those. Also, this just helps you draw into your power spells as quickly as possible, which is probably the main focus for this deck, especially early game. And then you've got the standard traps. You've got Ring of Destruction, Torrential Tribute, and Mirror Force. No spicy traps really. I couldn't really find room, and I didn't want to be getting like silly hits from Magical Merchant. I wanted to be getting powerful cards. Obviously Jar of Greed does kind of contradict that statement, but I still think Jar of Greed is a really good card in this deck, as I say, just to get to your power spells as quickly as possible. So yeah, that's the deck. Let me know if you want to see the other version of this deck that runs like Dimension Fusion and just all monsters apart from the 3 spells and then a couple others. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what other gold format decks you'd like to see. I've got a bunch of shit lined up, so stick around for that. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. Take care.